Hello and welcome back to 33 Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Michael Aveney, and today I'm joined by Laura, founder of Tatted. Laura, welcome to the pod. How are you today?
I'm good. So happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here too. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So thank you for being here. Laura, I want to start out with naming something that you said really clearly in our initial call. You're not just a new version of your company, you're in phase two of how you live and how you lead. What interested me wasn't the pivot itself. It was the decision to stop building someone else's or building by someone else's rules, especially after you saw what those rules were costing you in your own life. So before we start to talk about startups and tattoos and growth, which I can't wait, I want to start right here and ask you, what transformation are you literally in the middle of right now?
Yeah. So this is chapter 2 in the biggest way. It's not just the company being redefined or a strategy or anything you could even honestly document very well. What basically happened is that I pushed on the company for about 3 years. I mean, and also this is an idea I had for almost 10, right? This isn't something I just, sprung upon me. It's been my dream for a long time. Pushed on it in the wrong way for almost 3 years. Took a hiatus of almost a year and a half. That was personal, professional, everything in between. I moved from New York City that I'd lived for almost 20 years, moved on to Mexico. I mean, it was like a full eat, pray, love situation. And now have, come back to it. It is still the dream. The dream has never left. But now I'm really building from authenticity as who I am and not by who I think I should be or what the company I think I should be or what I think the company should be, etc. So it's really, I would say everything about it and everything about myself looks different now that I'm here.
What if you notice that, or pieces or aspects of yourself that fell off and are not there anymore as you did this, as this was happening in real time?
Yeah. The self-doubt, I think, is really big. I really didn't trust myself because I was defining myself and I was defining success and I was defining my path by other people's truth. And so when I really looked internally and I was like, what is my truth? How does this feel best? Then whenever I make decisions, I know that that's the right one from all of the important, places that we can, bring decision making from. It's from
Hmm.
me, it's from my heart, it's from everything I know. And I'm it also makes me more decisive because I don't have to sit here and like gut check things with, an advisor, this or that. I'm like, does this hire feel right? Or does this path feel right? Or does this partner really are we really gonna drive well? Is that in line with my values? Like, does that align with who Tatted is as a brand? And those are questions that are more important to me now. So, I have less of a sort of like decision fatigue. I have a lot less self-doubt. I think the crippling anxiety of foundership has also left because again, I'm not sitting here like, oh my gosh, I haven't made it yet. I haven't made it to that round and I don't have that institutional investor that I should have. And like, I don't have the 401A evaluation yet. And like, all of these different metrics that cause so much stress for founders. And instead I'm like, I'm on my journey and where it is right. And so that anxiety of like sort of keeping up with the Joneses is also left.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong. It's just
Right.
so easy to get in that trap. Were you aware of this before the transition? I'm just going to call it that. Before
Yeah.
the switch, before phase two, like when you were in phase one, since we're contextually framing it
Yeah.
that way, in phase one, were you aware of the performing? Because it's a performance. Like, were you aware of it?
Not at first. Not at first at all. I drank the Kool-Aid so heavily. And I
Hmm.
was, on LinkedIn and I was at the pitch competitions and I was at the networking events, exhausted myself. And I really had heard and believed like that's what it took to be successful. And there's no other way to be successful. And so you're just gonna grind
Yeah.
and die and there's no other way.
Good luck. Yeah. Let's hope you make, yes.
Okay.
But
It's
it,
crazy. And I think there's still
yeah,
a lot of people that believe that, honestly.
a, sh- a shit ton.
The majority.
And two, there is value in it. There is value in that space. I believe we almost have to do it that way. I'm in the same when I was going over today's what we were talking about, I'm like, shit, this is just such a mirror where I'm at right now.
My gosh.
And I've done so many of it. And like this podcast is about being real. So yeah, like the last couple of weeks, I really been battling a fear like infection and like it's bladder, and it's like that's pissed off, and like it's this thing where I'm realizing what you're sharing about that before. Did you have that? Like any physical things that happened when you were well,
It's
yeah.
wild how things manifest in the body. Here's what I would say. I think, I wanna, like, differentiate a few words that get thrown around a lot in conversations like this. I think grit is extremely important, and that's moving through something of extraordinary difficulty, right? And continuing, right? Refusing to to be pushed down. I think hustle is a word that's thrown out, and I think of hustle as just like, "All right, like, okay, I don't have, like, money in the bank for that partnership. Like, how else can we, like, shake this out? Like, can I convince them actually to partner with me even though I don't have cash to pay them, but, like, I could give them, like, a free tattoo in kind. Like, I could, like hustle is that, like, kind of like, let's figure out creative ways to make it happen. The grind, that's what I don't, support. Like, where it's like, "Oh, you need to be at your computer every day for this many hours, every weekend." Like, if you don't have it, then I guess, then you don't care enough. That's what I don't subscribe to from the startup community. So, yes to grit, yes to hustle, no to grind, and that's kind of where, I am now. As far as, like, the physical stuff manifest, yeah, I think I'm someone with a lot of mental fortitude. And so there were times that I was like, I'm fine, I'm not stressed. And then I would, like, wake up with, like, weird infection
Yeah.
and, like,
Yeah.
I had, like, an eye infection at one point. I never have an eye infection. Like, what is that from? And, like, just, like, all of this random stuff that came about, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, and then when I looked it up and I was like, "Oh, like, I'm getting all the things that are stress induced. Okay." The body is
Yeah.
rebelling.
I
Creepy.
live by I one of the very first books I ever read cover to cover was Louise L. Hay, How You Can Heal Your Life.
Mm,
And it was the first thing that ever made sense to me.
yeah.
And I still have like a little copy right next to me, but I look, but it's crazy how when you're in that vibe, how your mind goes, because this is something that I knew something was off and happening for a couple, 3 weeks before it got critical. And I completely blew it off or justified. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, yeah. What did this teach you about your self worth when you were in this space? Now that you're on the other side of it.
Question. It's interesting talking to entrepreneurs because I think there are already people with a lot of ambition and people that already look at themselves a lot and have a lot of confidence and are really have a growth mindset, right? I think sometimes there can be a little bit of blinders to that. Almost because I'm like, well, I'm a person that, I was always top of my class. You know what I mean? Like, I go to therapy already. You know what I mean? Like I read the book
Yes,
and I do the thing,
yes, yes,
And
yes.
so so we think that we're immune to the effects of this experience? And so I
Chills.
I do too, actually.
This is so
You know,
true. It's so damn true. We
we don't
walk
look at
over this shit all of the time. It's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Like, it's ridiculous. But
right?
it's also, it's just like what you just said. It's part of it is the testing or the necessariness of whatever it is that we got to get. But as soon as we get it, it does release, like we're all sharing this same similar experience at a root level, but we have different experiences of it. And like, it's crazy how ours tie together. I mean, next thing I want to talk about is your near death experience of like, that moment where you were like, because I had that in 20 mine was in a different moment. Mine was when I was exiting, when I made my final decision, I was not gonna move forward with real estate anymore, and I was just in for a regular colonoscopy, and I wake up in an ER going the guy goes, "Well, your heart stopped, and you were kinda, dead for 30
God.
seconds."
Wow.
Like, what right? And then something about that shifted something in me so deeply that I no longer had tolerance for bullshit. I like with anybody that I wanted to know I wanted to know life in a different way after that.
Yes.
So share with me like what that was like for you. Like what was your
So
moment?
absolutely, what an extraordinary experience. I can't claim something so like material health, close to death. However, I did once have a very public panic attack where, in the moment, absolutely, I thought this was the end. I absolutely thought I was dying. And I will say that I'm extremely lucky that I'm not dispositioned to experiences like that or anxiety or panic attacks or anything like that. So, at 29, having the very first one of those was extremely scary to me. And I was in a Dallas airport, I remember, and I just fell to the ground in the middle of the airport, in the middle of this busy terminal. DFW is so busy. Are you kidding? It
I
was
know.
Oh god, it was so horrible and embarrassing and I was bawling, crying, and just lost my mind. Yeah, it was very public, and it was after that that I was like, "Okay, like, this is too much." Not only is the body rebelling, but, like, I kind of realized in that moment, you can't if your whole goal, right? If right now your whole goal is to make this company happen, you can't do it like that. You can't do it when you're having moments like that physically or mentally. That's not going to be the way. So you need to figure this out. If you're going to, sacrifice at all cost, then you need to actually address this. I will say that was about midway through what I would call phase 1, which is only to say it's not as if there's a night and day to stuff like this. It's not as if there's a night and day to realizing how this works for you, to realizing to having like a really hard moment and you're like, "Oh, I can't do this. I need to work on my wellness," or I need to, I need to trust myself and increase my self-worth, even though I always define myself as someone with tons of self-worth. It's not night and day. There's little stepping stones along the way of like a
Yeah.
terrible panic attack or a really important conversation or just moment and a spiritual manifestation or whatever else along the way that get you to a point, meaning like I know that there's a path ahead of me, you know what I mean? Like I hope I
Mhm.
2 years from now and I say, wow, since then I have learned that this and this and this doesn't quite work for me as well as it does today.
What did it reveal to you after you got through that? Like, for you personally?
Yeah, I
Besides what you just shared, like, was there something that okay.
I was pretty amazed at the length that I would go for this company. That kind of surprised me. Like,
Yeah.
if you would asked me like 5 years before, like, would you put yourself to that end? Would you throw your credit score away? Would you, you
Mhm.
know, would you like, like, would you sacrifice, relationships truly and
Truly.
stability of lifestyle and financial stability for those of us without a trust fund and your health and everything and still want to move forward? And the answer was still a 100% blazing yes. And that really surprised me. And then, I did think of the journey a bit differently. And I was like, okay, like, I knew that this was a dream, but like, like almost like the word dream doesn't even encompass it. It doesn't even do it
Mm-mm.
justice. You know what I mean? This is purpose. This is identity. It's so deeply internal. And, what I say to people sometimes is like, listen, you would never tell like, you know, the like 6-year-old jazz musician to stop playing, right? Like, you never see like, you never tell people like, oh, stop painting, stop singing. Like that's who they are. That's their purpose. That's their beauty. That's their art. And I know that mine comes with a P&L and, all those other logistics, but
Because
it's
money's
the
involved. There's
grind.
an element of money that people don't understand, that it's different.
Mm,
Yes, there's money. Yes, absolutely. You want it to work and make sense, but it's not about money. It's about, for me, it's about sustainability. It's being able to, like, the podcast. I love this so freaking much right now. Like, just it's elevated me. I'm halfway. I mean, I'm already in season 8. Like this,
I
I
love
was
that.
like, how am I going to get 33 conversations? Like, how am I really going to do that? Well, that happened a month ago, and they
Amazing.
finish airing on the 3rd of March,
Oh,
which by the
wow.
time this comes out will already have happened. But the like just getting some perspective back, and the thing that I didn't think I could do not only has become the thing that I love the most, and it's the thing that I want to become sustainable by
Yeah.
what I'm doing in life, with supporting founders and all of that. Something shifted where it's not even about me anymore. It's about, I want to do this thing so much because podcasts
Absolutely.
don't pay very, they don't pay anything. So they, but that's not what this is about.
No, it's a
But
vision, it's inspiration, it's all of the above, absolutely. It's way more personal than any of that.
storytelling and raising your level of how you're able to do that. I'm shocked at how it's transformed so relatively quickly that it's making me better
Yes.
on how I look at things, how I produce things. And yeah, all out of this, for me, it was like it's almost like the things that stopped making sense when I
Mm,
got clear on this was like what you just said. Is like, how are you going to stop painting? How are you going to stop singing? How are you going to stop these things that are inside of you?
yes.
And that's where the confusion lines. But in business or passion or mission driven folks, it's the element is different.
Yes.
It has that, but we were taught to think that it's about money.
Yeah.
What stopped making sense to you?
I think the trajectory for me the most. I think there's a lot of rhetoric out there on how quickly you should grow and how soon you need to raise X amount of funds and, if you pivot too many times or whatever else. I feel like people almost like kind of like do a cookie cutter. This is the trajectory of a startup. And, if you've been around for too long or had too many pivots, it's like, oh, like I don't know. I don't know if it has legs, type of thing. And now I've really let go of that and that now that has no part of my world and it's absolutely whatever it needs to be, however it needs to flow. I mean, of course, like I have, all of our goals and OKRs and documentation of progress to it. Like, of course, like you can have all of our KPIs documented and all the rest, and extraordinarily ambitious as every founder is. But that doesn't mean that your journey has to follow someone else's definition thereof. And that's one that makes no sense to me now that I look, hindsight's 2020, right? I look back and I'm like, why would I even let anyone define that for me? It's crazy.
I know, but we do it because I think we just don't know. And like somebody says it, it sounds credible. And it's like, oh, yeah, sure, sure, Jan. Yeah, let's do that.
Right.
When it's like not really based on, we're not, I'm going to speak for myself, but like I hadn't grown to that space yet where I had that level of confidence. And that's where that grit and just keep, yeah. So now that you're in like the phase two, share with me, like, hey, what does that mean to you? Or how does it look like in your day to day now versus being in phase?
Yeah. I plan my God, everything. I plan my time completely differently. Whenever I think about where to apply myself, it's less like, okay, like how much can I get done here? And like there's, all of there's these other expectations and from this investor that just came in. And so maybe I should like work on getting this KPI up because it's what that investor was like most worried about. And like, whatever, like, I have a pitch coming up. So like I need to like maybe like get XYZ prepared to like have like the most impressive looking startup at that time, like again, all external. And instead I sort of come to the table of like, where does it feel right to create the most value? Related to the vision, like what feels right in the body, like how can I, and really from a place of inspiration and creativity rather than, and scarcity mentality of like, oh my God, I only have so much time. Like, what do I do? So how I plan my time is completely different. Who I bring around me is very different.
Yeah.
Oh God. I,
Yeah. That
just the
says it
horror
all
part
right there. I think everybody listening has got their own version of that. It's so true. It's so true because if you don't have the right people around you, then whenever they see you changing, that upsets the apple cart. And there's, for you, this is a leadership
Mm,
decision. And for them, that could occur like, oh, she's shrinking or she's like retreating or, you know, that. And it's
absolutely.
like, you're clear that that's not the thing, but yet, yeah, you have to be so careful that
You have to be
the
so careful.
projection of energy around you in these states when I think all of the time actually, is
Mm,
so crucial. That's one of the things that I do not tolerate anymore on any level. Like the universe
absolutely.
takes care of most of it if I just allow it, but it's like
Absolutely. It
relationships.
can drain you.
Hmm.
It can truly
Hmm.
drain you. I remember back in phase one, I hired an executive. It was the most expensive hire I had made to date, and was just now that I look back, on an absurd amount of money to spend on a singular employee. But I hired an executive, and he had been a president of likely the most important tattoo company, like globally. Everyone would probably know the name, but I won't say it. But I hired this president because of resume, and I was like, well, he's of course, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? It makes perfect sense. Absolutely, the farthest from a culture fit I could ever imagine. Just someone that, like, him and I hit like oil and water, and not someone that I feel like had a touch to the vision and values that I had. Very much like, intense ball buster, very, yeah, like came from a very different school of thought of how to treat business. And I hung on to that for a while and exhausted a lot of capital on that hire. And I look back and I'm like, never again. I'm not hiring on resume alone. I'm not hiring assholes or people I don't want to work with. Like, I don't care where you worked or what your job title was. If you're an ass, you're not going to be on the team. I don't want to take the calls with you. I should not have to dread taking a call with my internal team that I personally hired ever again. What was I doing?
Well, your boundaries and your standards
Yeah.
shifted. How were you aware of that? Like, or when that was happening? Because this is part of this same conversation that we're having is there's so many things that shift as we shift that the old phase one, old world would have you trying to manage all of those pieces.
Yeah.
And then you're just like become really, really clear about, yeah.
Yeah.
How does that still show up for you today? Like, is it easier that once that
It's a great
happens?
question. Yeah. It is, it's like things like that are tempting, right? Like the investor with the bad terms when you're running out of runway is tempting, like, I had some advisors that come in and like really want to get into the business, and they're like, you don't even have to give me equity yet. You can wait like 6 to 12 months before you even give me equity. I just really want to be a part of it. And I was like, God, like he's really gonna work for free. And Jesus, he's like, like this level of a CT worked at XYZ company. And I was like, but no, like, sorry, like I'm gonna say no to your free work because it doesn't feel right. And so, because I don't like, we're not gonna work together well. I don't like how you handle yourself in calls. I don't like how you talk to my teammates. Like, like it's like absolutely not. I will say, that's a material way. Back whenever I was making, and that one hire wasn't the only one that I made at that time that made no sense, that I spent a bunch of capital on. And I was ignoring myself. I remember every time I thought about specific people being on board, I would get like a little tightness in my stomach. I had that sort of like subconscious, like, I don't know, like, does that feel right? Like, I sent the contract and I was like, okay, all right, let's see, and I was ignoring it. I was full stop ignoring that. And things were moving really fast at the time. And no, yeah, there's just a lot going on with the company, and I was crazy busy. And so it just, there's a lot of chaos. But now, even amidst any chaos, taking the time to just slow the thought process down, slow the decision making down, take the quiet time with yourself. Like this forced sense of urgency that founders like, take slash are given is insane to me. Whenever there's something that I'm like, "Ooh, there's a little bit of hesitation there." Like, is there a reason for hesitation that I can just address, but I still move forward in that direction? Like, that's allowed. Or is that hesitation my subconscious and my gut, like, coming back and saying, "No, not that direction, Laura."
Or your like your inner circle? Do you have an inner circle? Like
I do. I have a
you
really I have really strong people around me from a personal perspective, and I have people that believe in me heavily and encourage me to weather every storm, which is just incredible. And I can't even imagine doing this without all of them, specifically my family. Shout out to the fam.
Is that like where you're able to, we all need these spaces where we can just be real with people for a minute, like been working in transformation world for 35 years. I got a bestie and I'm like, I need to be really untransformed right now. Just to like that. Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
about like you have that too? Like, why does that matter to you?
God. I mean,
Having that space to have that where you can just share your struggles honestly.
God, it's so isolating to go through something and not be able to share it. And maybe, maybe they won't fully understand. And it doesn't have to be a founder crew, like founder friends are great because they've been there, but just someone that, understands your heart space, right? And I'm lucky to have a few people that like feel my heart space. And so, I can be the most unhinged and afraid. And, because as a founder, it's like, whenever you're having a moment, are you sharing that moment of weakness with your investors or your employees that are
No, it
on board?
can't. It
And
can't.
you're
No, no,
like,
no, 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 no. But I think it's, I have, that's what 33 Strangers is about, is because I believe it's so powerful too. Like my bestie that I do share that with is a founder and she is a doctor. She's so committed to like women businesses and the psychology aspect of what it takes to run a business, especially being a female. And like I admire her for that. But we have this agreement. That's really the spark where I created 33 Strangers because that doesn't exist. But it requires trust.
yes.
And trust is not something that it is not a light switch. It has to be created and curated. And that really was the basis of really why it's taken me years to like articulate that. That's what that is. But that's really why that space is so frigging important. Like, what do you think shifts when founders actually get to stop pretending? Like, what do you think shifts internally? What does that shift in you when you have that space?
Yeah, I mean, for me, moving in authenticity makes me not feel like who I am or who I want to be. And that pulls at your self-worth itself also, right? When you're doing stuff where you're like, well, that was a little shisty, I guess, that, I told that investor guy that we had this many users, and I know that we're like, we're a couple or 1,000 away from that. It was a round number, it's fine. Whatever else, right? Like those
Yeah.
moments where you're just like really like, how's the business? It's great. It's fine. It's going so well, right? You know what I mean? Like you have it when like you cried earlier that you cried 1 hour ago. You're like, it's fine. It's wonderful. So those moments where you're like, God, like, I don't wanna have to do that, like, you feel bad about yourself, actually, like, even if you don't realize it, and then you're like, God, that doesn't feel good to play that game or play that card and kinda, like, be that, like, unreal, right? So, I think there's a fear that that will come back to bite you in the ass, and I can't say that it won't for some people, you know what I mean? I can't say that it won't for the wrong partners or investors or whomever else. And I just sort of kind of tested the waters at one point where I was like, all right, let's see what happens if I just like get on the investor call and just say it like it exactly is. I'm just, yep, and this is what we're most afraid of. And like and then there just started to be this beautiful thing that grew that
Yeah, you're being honest. Yeah.
it was like the heart and the realness of the company and the work itself by being that authentic and that open about it with sort of everyone on board. And I stay as transparent with everyone on board as I possibly can at all times. I mean, even on my personal like mental struggle, like that's my friends and my besties, but but about everything happening in the company, and it's just made it grow in an exceptional way that I'm really proud of, honestly.
So I want you to really feel this one. What feels truer for you now than it ever did before in your whole life?
My belief in people. It's
I want
funny.
that. Tell me more.
Yeah. I think it's my belief in people because, whenever you're wheeling and dealing and you're in the binary that is what it is to be a founder, right? You're in the nuts and bolts of it and you're working on the pitch and like how to position yourself as the best founder and all those things that like maybe aren't as authentic. And so whenever people are on board, it feels like, maybe you won them, you got it. You impressed them well enough. You did the dance right,
Yeah. Yeah.
and doing things in authenticity, the fear is the investors will be like, "Why would she say that? I can't believe she, like, told me that that's not going well," or whatever, right? The investors are gonna back away. Your peers, your founder peers won't have respect for you, right? You won't be able to attract any talent. Like, there's all of that once you start moving and such authenticity and honestly and against the grain of the way that other startups are doing business, there's such a huge fear of failure, and public failure, and like not being recognized within your own community. Meanwhile, I feel like by moving in this direction, I've attracted people that believe in me and what I'm doing with such heart and wholeness and trueness that I feel seen and supported in a completely different way, and I feel like people feel the inspiration here, and so they're
Yeah,
connecting with my true self and with, the true vision of what I'm building, and so I have such a renewed belief in the community that I've attracted by being that way.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, seriously, I love this conversation. But are you ready for your closing question?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, Laura, for founders listening who feel trapped inside of a version of success that just does not fit them anymore, what do you want them to know about themselves now?
To know about themselves. Yes, absolutely. I read a book called Untamed by Glennon Doyle around the time that this transformation was happening, which was specifically around how to make decisions without societal impact, without taking in sort of, what society thinks or the rest. It's an amazing book. And the biggest takeaway, which I hold with me truly every day, is that the answer is inside you. The answer is so internal. You have it. You don't need to Venn diagram it. You don't need to T chart it. Like, you don't need to go and have a 5, advisor conversation to try to workshop it. Like, that's not how this comes to you. Like thinking about what is the most authentic business for me, what's the most authentic way to operate within, how I'm making this dream happen. That's 100. It's right there. It is like, just give yourself some time to listen to yourself. Like, clear the noise.
Yeah.
Clear the noise.
Yes. Clear the noise, hear the signal. Clear the noise, hear the signal.
Yes,
Yes.
100%. That would be my
Okay.
best advice.
That's pretty damn good advice. Thank you so much for being here and sharing yourself with us today. Not even just your story. It's just really resonated. And I can't wait to get a tattoo by you one day. Like
No,
maybe at our retreat in a couple of years or a year, whatever it happens. Yeah, that'd be
we'd
so much
love
fun.
to.
Live
We'd
on
love to see
stage. Laura, I just want to thank you so much for naming what so many founders are feeling and saying it out loud. That's exactly why 33 Conversations exists. It's holding that space for brave people like you that are like over the performing and they start building their life from like truth and being authentic. And phase two leadership matters, and your willingness to live it out loud helps me and others do the same. So I know you did that for me today. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you
that.
so much. Oh, it's been a pleasure.
You're so me too. Hey guys, go out and have yourself an amazing conversation. You just never know what's going to happen. We're going to see you on the next one. Bye, guys.